But elder statesman and leader of the Pan-Nigerian Delta Forum, Edwin Clark, has in a reaction faulted the premise of Baba Ahmed's claim of the North's right to inherited leadership in Nigeria. Speaking with journalists in Abuja, Clark says the North's claim of having the population to produce the presidency is based on a faulty assumption that is not constitutionally feasible.
You were talking about majority. Majority to eat whose money? To depend on whose economical resources. This country, as I've always said, belongs to all of us. There's no section in this country that can exist without the others. We all have to work together. You have the population, I have the resources. I cannot use my resources without population. You can't use your population without resources.
Now, this back and forth between political actors from various regions of Nigeria regarding where the next president would come from seems to have given extra spice to the ongoing demands for increased fiscal federalism, especially from governors of the state in the south. The major plank of the agitation is enhanced security for their people. But the recent inclusion of the debate around the value-added tax and argument for inclusion of young Nigerians in the political process going forward seem to be of interest to many. Now, joining us to try to unpack some of this is Sam Aiboni, who's a lawyer and a trained negotiator and mediator. I like your titles today, and maybe you can help mediate peace between the South and the North. But what do you make of the statements by Baba Ahmed saying that they not to have the numbers and they shouldn't play second fiddle to no one here in Nigeria?
Well, I think in our political discourse leading up to 2023, we'll see political actors try and play up on their advantage. For me, I think the quality of the debates for politics in Nigeria, we need to up the game. I think a candidate that is going for the position of president and his call to the office is because he's from northern extraction, southern extraction, or southwest. I think there's something fundamentally flawed in that kind of thinking. So for me, if a leader is coming out to say that the northerners demand a shot at president and the only qualification for choosing the next president in 23 is from where it comes from, I think that is sad commentary.
But the question is, can a man win the highest seat in Nigeria just solely on the votes from one region?
Well, I think the answer is clear. Our president today ran for office a couple of times. We know his popularity in the northern region, and until he had alliances with the Southwest, he wasn't able to get into office. So the numbers that they are branding do not tell our political history. There is no indication that a person can become president in our democratic space by getting votes from one region. So really, at the end of the day, it's that's why the whole idea of zoning is about fairness, to say, okay, well, we have people across the globe, and if it goes to the north, it should go to the south. I understand that argument, but to reduce the choice and selection of president to just from where he comes from, I think it's not a place we should be.
It's not exactly the criteria that we should be using to determine our next president.
Yes.
So let's leave the zoning issue and move to the youth, because obviously they're going to be the ones to have to play a major part in, the 2023 election. So, what suggestions or ideas do you have to include our younger millennial, the younger generation, to get more active into politics? Because it seems like we have quite a few distractions at hand, and the youth are quite apathetic when it comes to seeking their voice. Maybe it's because of a lack of knowing what exactly the future could entail if they do not get involved. So I'm just wondering, what kinds of incentives or creative ideas do you have to get them more involved for these upcoming elections?
Well, for me, I think the straightforward answer is for them to get a lot more involved. the truth about it is that in Nigeria today, we run a party democracy. And you can't get into office or leadership if you're not a member of the political party. So for me, I think the focus for the youths, if they want to make a change, because for me, when we talk about youth inclusion in politics, youths have always been involved in politics because of their numbers. So irrespective, there's no democratic government that came into place without the involvement of the youths. So I think the real question is to get them in leadership. And since the party is the political parties are the root to get on the ballot and to get a space in leadership, the simple answer to that question is for them to get involved in the political process, get involved in the political parties, and that is the only way they can get into leadership. So I think the youth should move from, oh, I have a voter's card, go out and vote. Because in 2019, we had Atiku and our president on the ballot. And even if you had a voter's card, you didn't have a choice on who was on the ticket. So the real way for them to get involved is to get involved in the political parties. And I think they should start at the lowest levels, local government, state level, because really that's where government can make a difference. So for me, the call for the youth in inclusion is for them to get more active and more involved in the political process and hold themselves out. And the legislative basis for their involvement in politics has been enhanced with the successful passing of the Not Too Young to Rule bill. So they have the constitutional bottleneck that they had in coming in has been removed. Now, for me, I don't have any illusions that young people or youths have difficulties or have barriers into elections. We all know that elections are very capital-intensive and cost-effective businesses. Considering the number of polling units we have across the country, even if you said you allocated 10,000 naira per polling unit just to put transport and recharge cards per polling unit, that is going to run into billions of naira. So we need to appreciate the fact that politics is expensive. It's not about just the corruption around policies, buying of votes and rigging. The real logistics. Nigeria is a vast country. We have a vast population. So for them to get involved in politics, they have to do it within the context of political parties. And I don't want to even go too far into history. We all know that our major political parties came out of agitations. So there is the G18 and the G34 led by Kwame that transformed into PDP. And we all know the history of the other major party, part of it that came out of all that agitation from return to civil rules, that became a political party and merged with CPC when the time was right and took over our government. So I think the focus of the youth is for them to get involved in the political process by joining the political party.
All right, Sam. Some would say that all this, or the way the actors are heating up the polity leading up to 2023 is almost a guise to probably dissuade the youths. Because we look at the numbers that actually voted in the 2019 election and the 2015 election, just about 29 million for 2015, 28 million, just over 28 million for 2019. Voter apathy is real here in Nigeria. How do we get people involved that they feel that their votes do count? What would you say to Nigerians out there that would convince them? Because people always say, my votes do not count. That's not true. But how do we get people involved? How do we get the numbers as high as probably 2003, where we had over 42 million people come out to vote in the 2003 general elections for the post of the presidency?
Well, for me, going back to involvement, I think the youth shouldn't wait until 2023 to exercise their voters' right. And I think that's where the problem is. The problem is not about getting a voter's card and voting on election day. The problem is about joining a political party and being part of the political discourse. Now, if you look at the group of youths at the Lekki toll gate, the NSAS protesters, they have demonstrated that they have high capacity to organize, collect funds, and sustain a mandate. Now, if those group of people joined any political party, they will not need to give them money to cast their votes. They will not, if those group of people were at early polling units, there's nobody that's going to rig that polling unit. So for me, I think the youth should come together, that passion that we know that they have, they should come together and use it within the context of the political party. Like you pointed out, this whole talk about, I think the biggest fallacy is that, oh, politics is dirty, politics is rough, if you join politics, you get killed. And that's what they used to keep good people away. So if you keep good people away from politics, then you will continue repeating the same thing over and over again. So for me, I think the voter apathy will always be there if everybody just waits on the last day to turn up to vote. So to secure voter apathy, I think the focus should not be on voter registration, but encourage the youth to join the political party.
Okay.
It should be the journey and not the not the destination. All right, so I want to jump into the discussion of fiscal federalism. It's been a hot topic for days, weeks. VAT versus the state. So just some of the comments that you have on who should be collecting the money for the state or the federal government concerning taxes.
Well, for me, for a lawyer, my work is very simple, because we have to rely on the Constitution. So I think the Constitution is very clear. And until the National Assembly amends the Constitution, which is going to be a tall order, the states, there's no doubt about that the states have the right to collect it. Now, there's a question about administration and all that, and equality and fairness. But I think for me, it's a straightforward answer. The advantage of allowing the states collect VAT and the competition that it will breed for them to look inwards to generate VAT, I think there will only be winners at every point of the way.
Okay, let me just throw this on the here. As a mediator and a negotiator, briefly, talk to me. What would you say to both parties that they can come to? How can we find a middle ground here?
Okay, well, for me, I think, first of all, as a mediator and a negotiator, it's out of my hands because they have subjected it to court, judicial process. So the courts are going to rule one way or the other.
Right.
But the truth about it is that even if the courts rule in favor of one party or the other, even if the courts hold that Rivers State has the constitutional basis to collect VAT, that's not going to be the end of discussion. And that's where negotiation and mediation is going to come in, because we all know that some of the tax are across borders. There's the issue about input and output VAT. Even the Rivers State government acknowledges the fact that some of the people within the states will have to pay VAT to other jurisdictions. So for me, that's where the negotiation and mediation to come to say, okay, how do we find a way to better administer? And so for me, I think there's some clarity around it in my mind. I think we need to all agree that the federal government doesn't have the constitutional basis to collect consumption tax as the law is today. And once we agree that, then we can now have that space to say, okay, this thing, how do we manage it and administer it to do fairness? So for me, I think that's the point I will come in.
All right, I want to say thank you for your time today.
Thank
for
you very
your
much.
mediation and negotiation
Thank you.
this afternoon.
Thank you very much. It's really nice to be here.
All right.
Thank you.